Too High McFly presents The Fear of Fear.
That's right, everybody. Throw on that horror movie t-shirt and grab some popcorn. It's another monstrous episode of Terror-Phobia, a segment dedicated strictly to horror movies right here on the Too High McFly Movie Podcast channel. My name is Kevin Lyons.
I'm Jose Ramos.
Jose, we had like a rad little Sunday, man. We got to do a little double feature of horror movies at AMC Woodland Hills.
Yeah, it's not too often you get two horror movies in the same weekend.
Yeah, it was cool. We took a little break at TGI Fridays in between. We made sure we had enough time to get a beer, and then we got to go see Ma after we saw Godzilla. We saw Godzilla and Ma, and we're going to talk about both of those on this episode. First, we're going to talk about Godzilla, then we're going to talk about Ma. If you just want to hear our thoughts on Ma, we're going to put a timestamp in the description down below, and then at the end, to end it all off, we have another 2-sentence horror story that we're going to talk about. And but right now, we're talking about Godzilla, King of Monsters. Directed by Michael Dougherty and written by Zach Shields and Max Berenstein. Was that Borenstein? The Berenstein Bears, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and Dougherty actually was part of, he was one of the writers too, on top of directing. And I think two of his last few movies I actually have enjoyed. He did Trick or Treat, which is one of one of my favorite horror compilations. Mm-hmm. He did Krampus, another.
Okay, I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, very underrated one. He also did X-Men Apocalypse. So
that's basically where our problems of the movie came in.
Yeah, so he's got some gems on his belt.
But can I just say, man, like, I'm so excited that we're finally getting monster movies back to horror, especially big budgeted ones. You know, I mean, it is Godzilla what started all of like the horror shared universes with the Universal monsters, and you had Godzilla and King Kong, and it's just cool to bring those back. And I thought they did a really good job. I really enjoyed Godzilla. What about you?
Overall, I did enjoy it. I had my issues with it that kept it just okay, okay to good, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, I thought the movie moved pretty well. It was very fast paced and lots of action scenes with monsters, and that's what I was really excited about, because that's one thing in a monster movie. You have those rules where you don't show too much of the monster and you kind of just build them up, and that's basically what the first Godzilla movie was. But on this one, it was just like monsters right off the bat. I mean, you had the first introductory scene with Millie Bobby Brown and Vera Farmiga, and getting to know their backstory a little bit while they're in the kitchen making breakfast. But then you think that they're in their suburban home, but then it turns out that they're in like the jungle in China, and the mom's like a scientist there, and there's something going on under the temple. And then we see that it's this company called the Monarch, and they're basically have all these giant monsters that they found deep underground all over the world, and they're like hibernating them. That's basically what the movie opens up to.
It was like the double digit, like I want to say over 15 of the monsters, and they give you a little bit of that bait and switch at the beginning, like you said. It makes you look like they're in that suburban home, and she's emailing back with her father, and they make it look like the father is the one that's gone away and out of town, but it's them. Yeah. He's the one back home.
And they also showed the little brother, the picture of the little brother. I think we missed that at the beginning. I got to actually test screen this months ago. I think it was in the fall. I got to test screen this, and sucks having to wait that long, because it was really good. The VFX weren't done yet, but the majority of the movie I felt was like very entertaining.
So they kept a lot of it the same?
For the most part that I can remember. But yeah, I did. That's why I did know that there was a picture of like her and her brother at like all as a family. I think you missed that when we first got in there. Yeah. But yeah, it shows that, oh wait, where's his brother? We don't know where the little brother is. But as it turns out, he was trampled to death by Godzilla at some point. It's kind of morbid, and you kind of understand like why they're separated, and why the dad kind of just has a big chip on his shoulder.
Hey, sometimes you got to get out of the way. Yeah. It's not like he's hard to miss.
Yeah. But anyway, it's Vera Farmiga. She invented this fucking machine that
Orca.
Yeah, the Orca that can read like audio waves that animals give out. You know, what do they call that in the movie? Bioacoustics or something like that.
Yeah, so it's the sounds they use to communicate
Like
with
a
each
whale.
other. Yeah.
Like a whale call, basically. She found a way to control it, like to make you either be loving or make them like evil and like irritate them and make them want to destroy shit.
Yeah. So she was able to mimic what would be considered the call from an alpha. So then she can make them submit a little bit more with that, or an underling or calls of
Like a mother.
confrontation, which will cause the rage.
But the first example we got was like a soothing one. The Mothra was being born. We get to see Mothra in like basically the first scene of the movie, and you see in Mothra being born, and she's using the orca to calm her down when she starts freaking out and trying to kill everybody.
That's where you see she initiates. She's able to find the frequency for the alpha call.
Yeah,
that's when then Mothra responds to what she believes is the alpha.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, once that calms down, we get Charles Dance. His group of bad guys goes breaking in there and killing all the scientists except for Vera Farmiga and Millie Bobby Brown, and they grab the orca machine and they get out of there. Yeah, and the story just kind of picks up and it just goes with what they're giving us. It gets revealed a lot more that there's all these other monsters like sites throughout the world, and I think they automatically went to like a meeting with like Congress or the Senate about this company Monarch, and the lead scientist guy. What was his name?
He's the guy from Silicon Valley. It's Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Thomas Middleditch?
I think so. But I was talking about more Ken Watanabe, Dr. Ishiro Serizawa. Okay. That guy, he's awesome in everything, man. Like, he was in Batman Begins. Whenever that guy talks, you just can't help but just shut up and just listen to what he's saying. He has that smooth voice when he talks, And they're talking about how the Congress wants to kill all these monsters because there's no way to control them. And then he's like, no, we can't do that because some of these might be our best protection. And that's kind of like what that whole thing was about. Overall, I mean, I felt the pace was really good and all the action scenes were really good with all the monsters. For the most part, the narrative, all the human part of the story is really where it kind of drops the ball.
Yeah, and that's my main weakness with this movie is the human element in general. The story that they gave to the humans and try to follow it, it's weak.
Yeah.
It's very basic. Some of the stuff just doesn't make sense, like her villain speech and her villain turn. And it's understandable your feature here is the monsters. That's what you're going to put the most focus on, and that was strong. But with your human element being so weak, like I didn't care about really any of those characters. It was featured way too much for how weak it was.
Yeah, I can agree with you in the most part of that. I felt a lot of it was because it was just forced exposition. And usually in big monster movies like this, that's like the only time I forgive forced exposition, because if you just want it full of monster action, you just got to keep the story going. Usually that's okay, especially if it's a lot of people in like a war room and they're trying to figure out everything that's going on, and they're just spitting like, oh, he's on his way to China. This is how we stop him. This is how we have to do this. This is how we figured out how we had to do this. And it's a lot of that. And that I was able to forgive, but what I couldn't stand was Vera Farmiga. She kept flip-flopping. I mean, she's a great actress. I like her in the Conjuring movies and everything she does, but in this movie, whenever she flipped sides, she always made it felt like, well, it's obvious you should be on this side, or aren't you crazy? And like she's speaking so powerfully about it, it's like, bitch, you were just trying to kill everybody a second ago, and now all of a sudden you're like so moral about it. Like, I don't know, I just didn't like it.
Yeah, and then the fact that when they do the reveal that she's a bad guy and all the good guys, they're all questioning, they're like, well, she wouldn't turn, she wouldn't do that. She calls them through a video call, and she has a PowerPoint presentation ready to go
with her monologue.
Yeah, with her monologue showing her grand plan and how evil she is and why she's doing what she's doing. Right to him. She had pictures and everything.
There's a little Adobe Premiere icon in the corner of the screen while she's giving her presentation. That was kind of ridiculous. But something I like with that rift, though, that I did think was kind of cool was because that happened when they were trying to bring back Monster Zero that was frozen in the ice. And the dad, played by Kyle Chandler, playing Mark, he goes to Antarctica, with his team to intercept Vera Farmiga and her team, and Millie Bobby Brown's caught in the middle of it. They have all the explosions planted in the ice, and they're all on this catwalk right in front of the frozen monster, and you could see you could hear the heartbeat of the monster and the bioacoustics it was giving off, and they were using that between the mom and the dad, trying to get the kid to come with her. She's like, come on, come with me. And the mom's like, no, Maddie, don't do that. And you could just feel like their bioacoustics affecting her because they were using the heartbeat. And then you just see Vera Farmiga just go, Maddie. And then she just changed and she just went right to her mom. It's just like, shit, she was like using bioacoustics. I never picked up on that the first time I watched it in the theater because I don't think they had that in the test screening.
And that was a cool scene. And then that's when you found out that it wasn't just the mom. She got buy-in from her daughter. Yeah. Which usually isn't the case in these movies. So you have the parents, they make the big decision. Yeah. The kid is just along for the ride. But the kid, she was on board, at least to a certain extent, with her mom's plan. And the mom had explained it to her and all of that. And this is where you find that out. Yeah,
that their big monster plan was to wake up all these monsters slowly one by one and let them do what they do naturally, because apparently like they destroy some of the bad parts of the earth like us, but they all give off radiation, and in that radiation that they give off, they get advanced growth in the soil, and it gets enriched, and a lot more life is exploding on the planet, and it's almost like they symbiotic with the creatures, like the good ones were thinking of us as like their pets basically, and that they're trying to protect us and whatnot. But then Charles Dance was his name, Charles Dance and Vera Farmiga, their plan was to do that, wake them all up so they destroy the world and it regrows again. And it's kind of ridiculous.
She compared it to like a forest fire. Let it all burn, it'll all like regrow. They're like, most of the majority of people will get wiped out, but the ones that are left can live in, together with the monsters in harmony. They saw it as a balance. The world. It was the dumbest plan and idea. It's like, you realize this means you're probably gonna die too. And it's like her motivation for doing all this was that her son got trampled by a monster. Yeah. So in order to get, revenge or redemption for that or whatever her motivation is, let's release more monsters like the one that killed my kid, because that's going to show them.
Yeah, it was just so stupid. And then how quickly she flip-flopped back from that. And it was just like bullshit. All right, just give me the monsters. The monsters. It's ridiculous. That's what, because as soon as you get annoyed with that, all of a sudden a monster comes crashing in and we get an awesome fight sequence for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I remember myself in the theater, and it would be these extended human parts, and I'll start looking around, I was being pulled out of the movie. I'm like, this isn't interesting to me. It's not an interesting story, and there's nothing against the actors. They were doing what they could. Kyle Chandler, is a good actor. Vera, Millie, they did very well. But it's just, I did not care about a single human in this movie.
Oh no, there is one human we cared about. And his name was Bradley Whitford, playing Dr. Rick Stanton, the guy from Cabin in the Woods. Oh, yes. And Billy Madison. Yes.
He was hilarious.
Dude, he was awesome, man. He's so funny and everything. He has the perfect comedic timing. He was awesome in this.
He has some good moments that made me chuckle during those human scenes. But generally, I was just tolerating that until I got to the next monster scene. Yeah. Because the monster scenes were great. The movie is visually stunning. I was telling you, as I'm watching the movie, there's certain scenes. Yeah. And I'll look at it, I'm like, ooh, that would make a great poster. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that would make a good screensaver.
There was that really cool heroic shot of Godzilla coming out of the ocean with the army behind him, marching towards Monster Zero at Fenway Park. And dude, that was because Monster Zero was about to destroy Millie Bobby Brown. And right when it was winding up to throw flames at her, it he gets hit by a beam, and it's Godzilla's beam. All of a sudden it whip pans to the ocean. You see Godzilla just rising out of the ocean. It's all badass with all these jets coming over his shoulder.
I brought my boys.
Yeah, he even huffed and it was just like, damn, that was fucking so cool.
Yeah, and King Ghidorah or Monster Zero
Yeah.
had a moment like that too. So when Godzilla was taken out by our own army and King Ghidorah becomes the alpha of the world, gets on top of the volcano and has that like I won pose.
Yeah, with the other monsters kind of like slowly walking to no, that was more towards the end. I think there was just
It
one
was just
other
that
monster.
rodent.
Yeah. Oh man, that was cool. Yeah, so like I told you guys earlier that I actually test screened this back in the fall, and you guys were asking me if I noticed a difference. There wasn't, but I noticed a continuity error while watching this, and then I figured out that there was a change, and how they fixed their continuity error blows my mind. All right, so there's the scene where Mothra, right? After the opening scene, she flies off and she's hibernating underneath a waterfall, and they have like a base right at the bottom of the waterfall, and they're just monitoring her.
She crawls like out of the base because she doesn't have the wings yet. She crawls under the waterfall.
She crawls under the waterfall and she sits there because she's gonna get into a cocoon, and because she's still like growing. And so there's that base there. And the young doctor, I think her name was Dr. Ling, but she was played by Zi Zhang. And you see her at the waterfall base with the guy, the doctor from Terminator 2, who's a scientist and everything. This is further along in the movie, and they're at the base of the waterfall, and they could hear Mothra finally emerging from her cocoon. And the doctor runs out there, and he sees this actress, Zia Zhang, just staring at Mothra, like with her wings finally growing out, and it's just like, holy shit, okay, she's at this waterfall watching Mothra. And the very next scene, this actress is in the ocean with the dad, Mark. And I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second, is Mark and them, did they go back to the waterfall? No, they're in the ocean, and then the dad is like, all right, I'm gonna go leave to go find my daughter, and he runs and he gets in the helicopter, and Mothra comes. I'm like, wait a second, that doctor, she was just at the waterfall with Mothra. I'm like, why is she in two locations? And I found the thing. They reshot a scene explaining that she has a twin, and that was not in the original cut. And they never mentioned that she has a twin or any part of the story. It made no sense whatsoever. But that was one of their fucking pickup shots, was explaining that. He's like, oh, remember when they were looking at pictures of her? And he's like, oh, you're part of a generation. Like, yeah, 2 generations. I thought she was talking about her and her mom, because I was looking at pictures. They were old pictures. But they were trying to reveal that she was a twin. She had a twin. And they did that just so they wouldn't have to explain why she was in 2 locations. That was so ridiculous.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioned that we got out of the movies, and then when I went on the IMDb page just to, look up the basic info for the movie, I saw that they had her under 2 characters.
Yes.
And I was going to talk to you about that. I was like, I think she was playing 2 different roles, and that's why you had her there. But like I said, like I care so little of the human element, like that aspect was so weak that I spaced out a few times during the human stuff.
Yeah.
So even if they would have said it out loud, like, that's my twin sister, I probably would have missed it, because I would have been like, oh, you're with the monsters, let's fight.
If you were a twin in a movie and you're directing that, you would make sure that the audience knew that there were 2. That, like, you would make a big point to show that they are 2 separate people. Yeah. This was a pickup shot that they shot, and just to deal with the continuity error is ridiculous. Like Game of Thrones, the season finale, when Jon Snow is approaching the castle and he sees Grey Worm there, and he has all the soldiers hostage, and he's killing them one by one. He's like, don't do that. He's like, oh, go talk to the queen. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to the queen. And Jon leaves, and he goes on this long journey to go talk to the queen. And as soon as he gets there, Grey Worm is at the top. But instead of just letting it be a continuity error, they just make a point. It's like, no, this is Grey Worm's twin, Red Worm. Like, that's how unnecessary that pickup shot was.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on it. They could have easily just had a line where it's just like, contact your sister or something like that. But it's like the characters themselves had no mention. They didn't really communicate with each other.
Even calling them, you wouldn't even need to get another actor's availability. It's the same actress. Yeah. Just do 2 different shots of her on 2 different phones.
How's Mothra doing over there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. How's Godzilla over there? Oh, doing good.
It's ridiculous.
It would be like the scene with West from the old Batman,
No,
Where-
yeah. When the Commissioner Gordon calls
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne and Batman at the same time, and he's like, "You guys need to talk to each other." That was really funny.
But moving away from the human element, the monster stuff was great. We talked about the visuals and how stunning they were. The fights were really good when you can see what was happening.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had a problem with is there were certain parts of certain fights where you couldn't tell what was going on. It reminded me of Transformers 1, where everything just kind of meshed together and it was like, okay, who's hitting who? Whose body part is that?
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and I think I noticed it's because they shot those action sequences on the scale of people looking up at it, which in some scenes were really cool, but they should have done a lot more big, wider, like their scale, seeing them fight. Because, like, as cool as these monsters are, and I've noticed this in Pacific Rim, whenever you see big, giant things fighting, it almost seems like they're always just moving in slow motion, too, and then you still can't understand how they're fighting. Like, it's just kind of weird in some parts. But overall, I mean, like, there are just so many awesome shots of the monsters fighting that I kind of forgave that a little bit, but I did notice that there were some parts I'm like, what exactly is this? How's this fight happening?
Speaking of movement, I feel that from the last movie to this one, Godzilla's been getting his cardio in. You actually see him sprint in this one at one point. He starts running. He never moved that fast in the last one.
Yeah.
He's so slow me around. This one, he's like sprinting.
That was cool. It was, I mean, like, it's so, it's CGI, but there were definitely shots in there that felt like it could have been a guy in a suit. Like, it still could be a guy in a suit. That's what I loved about the form of Godzilla in this. They didn't change it so much to the point where it was just so unnatural looking from the source material, because the source material was a fucking dude in a suit, and that's exactly kind of like how Godzilla looked. But I mean, he looked really good. I mean, he was intimidating, scary. We got some really cool close-ups of him, and after he got hit with Monster Zero and that big oxygen bomb that went off in the ocean, and Godzilla just sank to the bottom, which is like another cool part of the movie where there was this underwater civilization, ancient civilization deep in Hollow Earth. That's what one of the doctors kept on, it's my theory, Hollow Earth, it's real. And there was like a lost Atlantis civilization down there, and that's where Godzilla was. He was in like this room that was that big giant air pocket full of gas, and he was
lava.
lava and radiation, because he feeds on radiation. So he went down there to heal, and their plan was to wake him up with a nuclear bomb. All of their electronics weren't working for, to send a radio signal to blow it up. So somebody had to be there. And they're like, it's so hot, your skin's going to basically like melt off. You're going to die from all this radiation. And the doctor's still like, I will do it. And he grabs the nuke, and he goes to that big underwater bubble where Godzilla's lying down. And he takes off his gloves. And his skin
To push
is
buttons.
fine.
To push buttons.
Yeah.
You didn't need to take off the gloves. It wasn't touchscreen.
Yeah, but still, they didn't show his skin burning, and they didn't, like, when he took off his helmet, they didn't show him like struggling to breathe, really, and that, like, they should have showed some of his skin bubbling.
Yeah, he was fine. He was talking fine. He was able to walk up to Godzilla, pet him a little bit, say some words, say goodbye, and then blow up the bomb with no physical reaction to the fact that you're here in this irradiated, lava-filled air pocket deep in the ocean.
And that did bother me more than anything else, because it was such a good scene. It was a cool moment between the Doctor and Godzilla when, like, he was basically sacrificing his life to wake up Godzilla, and Godzilla just kind of opens up his eyes and he sees him there. It's kind of like when your dog is hurt and is lying down, he's just looking up at you and you just want to pet his nose.
Like, I'm sorry I've stepped on you, buddy.
Yeah, sorry I stepped on your foot. And here's a nuclear bomb to wake you up. And that was a really cool moment, but for the fact that they didn't do, like, his skin just scarring and just suffering from being there, I felt like could have brought that scene up a little bit more.
Yeah, and it ruined a good moment for me, because that pulled me out, because that whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, how is this not affecting him? What's going on with his skin? Why is he talking fine? They said he's going to have mobility issues. He's not having mobility. So all that's going through my mind instead of enjoying this moment between him and Godzilla.
Yeah, but fuck it, it's a monster movie. So that's what's funny, though, because a lot of monster movies, growing up, they have all those kind of cheesy things to them. I mean, not that was cheesy. It's just like, what, did you guys not have enough money to make your skin look burnt? And we put a lot of pressure on movies nowadays and forget to let go of the things that are okay to be cheesy and bad, like in monster movies. I love monster movies, but some of the reasons why is how B they are sometimes. And then this gets like a huge $200 million budget, which it's gonna make. It's not doing well in the theaters right now, but it's gonna make its money back.
Yeah,
I think it was like 180 over the weekend worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, only 47 million domestic. Cost about 170 was the budget.
Oh, okay.
170 to 200 million, because you gotta put in the marketing and all of that stuff. So about 200 million domestically is made a quarter of that. So it should surpass it internationally, and I think that's what they're gonna count on. They're gonna count on the international money. I don't think they have high expectations for this domestically.
No, but fortunately for us who did enjoy this movie and want to see another one, we don't have to worry about them depending on the box office to make another one because they've already made it. They've already made the sequel to this one, which is going to be Godzilla and King Kong. And I'm stoked for that because it's gonna have Millie Bobby Brown in it again. So
yeah, and I think it's also the same
Director?
writer director.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully they learn their lesson with the bad exposition in this one and do something cool. Because I would like to see those cast of characters deal with King Kong. Because you imagine like Millie Bobby Brown and them on Skull Island. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I feel either make the humans more dynamic that you actually care about them, or feature them as little as possible and focus on the monsters.
Yeah.
I feel you got to do one of those two things.
Well, I think that they're going to jump right into Skull Island, and I think it's not going to be as many characters. It's just going to be that small handful, and they already did all their backstory, so they're able to introduce something new without having to do the exposition of who they are. So I think it's going to be pretty good for that, and it's a bigger name. I mean, not bigger name. Godzilla's huge, but like before it was just Godzilla, and now we have Godzilla and King Kong together. So that's going to be really. I'm really excited for that one because I did like Kong Skull Island. Yeah. I thought that was a decent monster movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Now we're gonna get all the Facebook and Twitter polls. Team King Kong, Team Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. So what else do you want to talk about Godzilla? Do we meet all those points?
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about was just the universe, but we just covered that. We're gonna see how King Kong Godzilla's already set.
Yeah,
it's got his writers, directors. It's gonna happen. See if they...
No, I think they're already done filming it.
Oh, they're completely done filming
I think that's what I heard. I heard that they already finished filming it.
Okay. Well, it's done. But how that one does will depend if they expand this even further.
Yeah.
If Godzilla looks like it's on track right now to at least make its money back and a little bit more, but if King Kong and Godzilla is a hit, they're gonna want to do more.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you rate this movie?
With Godzilla, I ended up at about 7.5. It was entertaining. The monsters, which are the main attraction, were great. They were visually stunning. They were fun to see. Like I said, the human element was weak and featured too much in comparison to its weakness, so that lowered it down for me because it bored me at parts.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I'm around a 8.5. I was really jazzed up at when I saw it. I was gonna go to a 9, but I think I'm gonna settle at 8.5 because there was that big continuity error that just couldn't stop drilling my mind, and I just couldn't stand Vera Farmiga in this. I mean, I love her as an actress. I want to see her in so much more stuff, and I think she's fantastic. But I just couldn't stand her character in this, and like just the monster fights are really cool. So yeah.
Well, I will say about this to you guys listening out there is this is a great movie to see in a theater, especially if it's IMAX or Dolby. Just with the scope of the fights, the visuals, the sound, it'll be good in your house, but it's going to be so good in the theater.
Yeah, and it's fast-paced, too, so it's just like one right after the other, just really cool shit happening, especially with all the monsters. I don't think we could say monsters enough. Yeah. Speaking of which, just to end this part, what is your favorite monster movie, Jose?
I don't know.
I'm going to go with Tremors for me.
Tremors.
I mean, it's just my go-to monster movie. I just love it. It is a little B, but it's still good. That's one of those things I was talking about where I kind of forgive some of the goofy dialogue and stuff if they have good monster concepts. And of course, Godzilla's great. But yeah, that and Starship Troopers.
Oh, I just
That's
watched that a few weeks ago.
That's like a sci-fi monster movie.
Yeah, it's so bad, but so great at the same time.
Yes, sir. All right. So after this movie, we walked over to TGI Fridays and we had a beer and some wings. And then we
And
went,
ribs, man. Can't forget the ribs.
and those ribs. And then we got to go walk back over to AMC, Woodland Hills, and we watched Ma, the new movie directed by Tate Taylor, writer Scotty Landis, and starring Octavia Spencer. I remember seeing the trailers for this, and I thought it was a really cool concept for a horror movie, but I didn't think it was going to be like fast-paced horror.
What do you mean,
Like
fast-paced horror?
like when we watch horror movies, especially like a lot of the Friday the 13th, the things that we love that we grew up on, there's like those kills every 5 minutes.
Okay.
And Ma didn't really have that, but I loved the concept of it. And it was basically these kids in the suburb in the middle of nowhere. They're just looking for adults to buy them booze by the liquor store. And Octavia Spencer is like, all right, I'll do it. And she doesn't want them to go drinking and driving. So she offers them, why don't you guys drink in my basement? And it's kind of weird, but after they realized how cool it is, they kept on coming back and now more friends. And then I heard them say, even in some of the scenes, the party scenes, like, oh, I don't even know these kids. I think it's spreading out to other towns. They're all
Other schools are coming in.
And then Octavia, she has that rule that she's like, you can't go upstairs at all, no matter what. Of course, the kids are gonna go up there. And then, they were teasing in the trailers that she's taking the kids' jewelry and she's just being really kind of sketchy. And you just didn't know how this was going to play out, but I love that concept.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It was simple, not simple in a bad way, but simple as it wasn't overly complicated. You had this killer who had gone through some trauma and is now, as a child, and is now an adult, and now getting this attention from all these other kids, it causes her to behave a certain way, which we're going to get into. I don't want to give out too much right at the beginning.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I like the concept so much is because I remember, being a kid in high school and like you might score booze somewhere and you want to find a place to drink it. That was the main thing. Like, because especially in a town where there's nothing to do, you want to drink with your friends, but you don't have a place to do it. And, you go drinking in the woods, but you always get busted by cops. She's like, man, I just wish we knew somebody who had a basement or garage we could chill in. And then seeing that made into a horror movie, as simple as an idea that is, I can't believe they haven't done a movie like that before.
And it's realistic in the matter, like you said, that if that is offered to actual high school kids, not all of them, but to high school kids, some are going to jump at that opportunity.
Yeah, as sketchy as it is, they want to have a good time. And if they see it, like, okay, it's cool, they're going to keep coming back. And so, Octavia Spencer, man, even though the movie was slow and it wasn't my favorite, it was, she kept this movie going for me. Because, like, every time she's on screen, you just can't help but just watch her and see what she's going to do. She just, like, plays a character so well. Yeah,
it reminded me a little bit of last month we did The Intruder, and we watched The Intruder.
Yeah.
And for everything that movie was lacking, the villain performance by Dennis Quaid was good. It was captivating. He got your attention every time he's on screen. We get that from Octavia here, where every scene that she's in, she is stealing that scene, and just the range that she gave to this character. It wasn't just a basic like black and white, I'm evil and I just want to kill people and stuff like that. There was dimensions to this character.
Yeah, you could see that wasn't her plan the whole time, but you could see how it kind of formulated after a while. I think at the beginning you did feel that she wanted the kids to be safe. And then as the movie went on, she starts getting more evil, more like going back to the thing that she was traumatized by in high school that I wish we'll get to. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, what were some of your favorite parts that you liked about it?
I think besides her performance in general, I like that the kids themselves, sometimes you get these movies, the kids and the actors and stuff, you're just like kind of cringing there, but it's like, we'll go on.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
But I like that these kids, they did their part, they did their role. They weren't like amazing, but they didn't stand out of the story. And I think besides Octavia, that was one of my favorite parts of this.
Yeah, I mean, like all those horror movies where they have the stereotypical, teenage kids, even just regular movies. It's always unbearable to watch the teenagers in movies these days. But these kids, you're right. I mean, it was casted well. I thought all the acting performances were good in this, and all the teenagers, like the main girl who was Juliette Lewis's daughter, they go moving back into this town because the mom used to live there, but the girl, she wasn't born there, and she comes in there. She meets a new group of kids, and they're kind of like party kids, and she likes the boy in the group who right off the bat is a nice guy, and they never tried to do anything really kind of bad with that. I mean, like, he was a sweet kid. He kind of had one of those like innocent personalities, and he was never really drinking that much. He was always the driver, driving his dad's security van. And so that's what I liked about it. They didn't try to mess with us in that way. They just gave us like a good relationship just to hang on to when things are going to get crazy later.
You have to have certain types of characters in here, and they did give us some of those characters. You had the guy who was kind of an asshole and a smart ass and all of that, but they didn't go overboard with it. They didn't give you that stereotypical role they give you. He actually was a good guy. He just was a loudmouth. That was it. And then you had the girl, and other movies, she would have been the popular girl who's mean to everyone else. She had the aspects of the fun, the party, and all of that, but she also was a good person who went out of her way, because that's what I was afraid of when she first showed up and she just walked up to this new girl in the library and she's like, hey, I was new last year, like, why don't you come join us, come hang out? I'm like, don't tell me they're going to try to do something to her. This seems like that type of character.
Yeah, but they didn't. That's right. She was just like, hey, I think they were just trying to, just really get through how they all met, because we're seeing this movie through the girl's point of view. She's new to this town. I'm like, all right, she has to make friends with somebody and then go into the plot of partying in this older lady's basement. I don't think they're going to have a lot of obstacles with her trying to be friends with this group. They're just going to be friends right away.
And that was good. I like that they did that, because you were able to get into, the main story sooner.
Yeah, other than that, I did like all the performances with Octavia. It's just the movie didn't move very fast.
Especially the first 2 acts were very slow.
They were slow, but I didn't think they were really bad. They just felt like a really good character piece, because you got to see how everything, like, it starts off with the situation of partying, and drinking and going to see her, and it's all cool for a while. But I liked seeing how it all progressed to the point where the third act basically does turn into a horror movie. And actually, I don't even think we got our first kill until the third act.
Yes, because that's when we got the
car,
her running over.
The kid who's the boyfriend of the girl, his dad has a girlfriend, and she's played by the actress Missy Pyle. Her name is Mercedes, and she's just like that blonde bimbo bitch who's now older, and she's like so funny. She was so funny in this, and then seeing Ma hit her with the car because she just fucking hated her, and so she runs her over while she's jogging, and then she just calls her a cunt and turns on the music and keeps driving, and I was laughing so hard.
And it's like happy music that she plays, like dance music, and just drives out like she just didn't run over someone.
Oh man, dude, that was funny, but it was also like the visual of her getting hit by the car was just fucked up. But then when you hear her call her a cunt and then turn on the music, you just couldn't help but laugh immediately after.
Knowing that there was such few deaths in this, and that being the first one and coming later on, it made me wish they didn't show that in the trailer.
Yeah, that's right. They did show it in the trailer. It was like one of the only deaths in the movie. There was a couple, and they showed it in the trailer. That's right.
Yeah, like I think it would have been better if they didn't. I understand in horror movies you get a lot of people getting killed. You show one, maybe two of them.
Yeah.
But in a movie you have like 2 kills. That's it for like the movie. You're giving one away, and a good one.
I think they needed to. In order to let you know that it was a horror movie. That's what the trailer was. And I think the other deaths would have given too much of the final act of the story. But anyway, that brings me to my next point, is that it wasn't very scary. Like, it was just kind of creepy, like what this person was doing, manipulating people. But something I noticed when we were in the theater, I was sitting next to this guy, and like, he was a big guy, but he kept on getting scared by all the jump scares. Like, there weren't even big jump scares. They were like backing out of the parking lot. All of a sudden they couldn't see her anymore. And this is in the daytime. And they're like, where'd she go? All of a sudden she just taps on the window. And like, it wasn't even that, even the characters in the van weren't really scared. They just didn't know where she was. But the guy next to me just jumped. He's like, oh! and he like covered his face. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, maybe it wasn't scary. Maybe it wasn't a scary part. Maybe he's just afraid of strong black women, and that's what freaked him out. But yeah, they didn't try to make this really scary. It was just psychologically twisted.
No, he didn't. And I didn't expect a lot of jump scares from this, but originally I thought they were going to get into, just going off the trailers, my impressions, I thought they were going to get into the horror sooner, have a little cat and mouse game aspect of it where, she was going to do more to them.
Yeah.
Not just in their house, but probably doing stuff to them at their own house, like sneaking around, which we only got really once.
Yes.
And it's when
the girls.
Yeah, the main girl goes out, and I don't know if she stabbed the dog or drew blood from the dog, but the dog she sees her dog bleeding, and then she looks out into the shadows with the flashlight, and you see
it was Ma. She was wearing like nurse scrubs.
Yeah, but the character didn't notice that it was Ma. We can see that it's Ma. She didn't notice that it was Ma.
Yeah, but when she took the dog's blood, that's what she did. Because you remember when she tied up the kid's dad and she put the IV of dog's blood into his veins?
Yeah.
Because the big twist was this kid's dad, when he went to high school with Ma when they were younger, he tricked her into giving him a blowjob in the janitor's closet in school, but it ended up being another kid. And when they came out of the closet, the whole school was there like, ha, ha, and the kid's like, yeah. And that was basically the really awful thing that happened to her when she was young. And then all the shit that she was doing was like almost like payback for that over time. When she realized who the kids were, and the dad came into the picture, and he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? I haven't seen you in years. How you doing? Let's go get a drink." And then they meet up at the bar. He's like, "You're following I have a tracker in my son's car. He's been going to your house." And it's just like, that's when it started getting kind of crazy.
Some of the decision making of some of these characters, just some of the things that they did, and that was one of them. So you're overprotective enough that you send a cop to go find your kid because he's drinking instead of going yourself.
Yeah.
But you send a cop over there. So then you find out through the GPS tracking of the car that your son keeps going to this older woman's house over and over again.
Yeah.
And you're concerned enough to confront her. But instead, you go to her job, you give her your cat, because she works in the veterinarian office. You give her a cat, you invite her to go out for drinks later. To catch up. And then you show up and you're talking nice to her, and out of nowhere, GPS says he's going to your house. I don't want my kid anywhere near you. What are you doing? It's like, you went through all that? You could have just asked her. Like, at the military, it's like, why is my son going to your house? Like, why go through all that trouble?
Such a waste of Luke Evans. This guy, he just came in to play the dad. But yeah, that was whatever. But I will give them this. The third act was kind of okay, but it did give me my favorite moment of the movie. So they're all in the basement. Like, Ma has them all drugged because she used a tranquilizer from the vet's office, and all the kids are like tranked in her basement, chained up, and she's like torturing them each one. She's taking like a high school yearbook picture, and she's making the young girl watch. And then eventually, they get rescued, whatnot, and the girl gets a knife and she stabs Ma in the back, right? And this is the house is burning because giant third act crazy shit was happening. And so all the characters escape the house, and it looks like Ma's gonna die, but she just got stabbed like what looks like through the back, through the lungs. And then all of a sudden the knife falls out, and she just casually walks up the stairs that are on fire, and she just walks to the house like ain't nothing, ain't no shit. And she just walks right through the fire, right through the window. She looks out the window, and then she walks right upstairs into the burning bedroom where the dad's dead, and she just crawls into bed with him, and the house just burns. I'm like, that was fucking badass.
That part where it was a cool visual to see her walking out of the basement with the fire and all of that.
Yeah.
But before that point, I felt that final confrontation was pretty anticlimactic. After the slower pace of the movie and it building and building and building, when shit finally went down, it was so short and not a lot happened. It felt anticlimactic for the buildup that we got this entire movie.
Yeah, that's right, because they spent a lot of time building stuff up.
Yeah, she put an iron on one kid, sewed another girl's mouth shut, and then painted the black kid white because there can only be one black person. In the
Yeah,
group.
that's what she said. That was fucked up. She fucking irons the kid's stomach because he had like washboard abs or whatever that thing you could iron a shirt on their stomach.
Yeah.
I think that's why she did the iron thing. And she made the girl shut her fucking mouth with sewing it. I mean, that stuff was kind of gross. And that's when it started getting more like horror, torture-y type of shit. But yeah, then she just paints the kid's face white. It's just like, he got up kind of easy.
Yeah. But yeah, it felt like, okay, so they got into it now they're doing this, and one or two things happened. They either like, oh shit, we're running out of time, let's just end this real quick.
Yeah.
Or they were like, oh, I feel like we went too far, pull back.
Yeah.
And then they just like stopped it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I like the result of what the third act was story-wise, but the execution here was like really quick. And Juliette Lewis comes in and saves them with Big Gay Al.
Yeah.
Stu, I loved her friend from work, man. He was just so funny, so flamboyant,
Yeah.
and just so awesome. I just loved his character. I wish there was more of it. It was just really funny. Yeah. So that was basically the movie. I mean, I liked it, but it doesn't really have a rewatchability factor for me.
Yeah, I agree. You know, pretty good, decent teenage character, great acted villain in this, but very slow paced, iffy character decisions throughout the movies that a lot of them seem unrealistic. It just really held this movie down. It's like the most I was able to give it is just like a 7.
Yeah, I was around a 7 too. Like, especially because the concept I thought was so good. I just felt like the movie should have been a little bit more horror and a little bit faster paced. But I did like all the actors in it, and Octavia Spencer, man, she was really good.
I would say if it wasn't for her, this would probably be like a 5 for me.
And then there was the twist that why everybody couldn't go upstairs to her house was because she had a daughter that we saw in like the second scene of the movie. She was in a electronic wheelchair in the school, and the girl's like, "Do you need help?" She's like, "Okay, just a little push." She pushes her. She's like, "Thanks, you're great. Okay, you too." And then they leave, and you never see her again. And then that's revealed that that's her daughter.
I forgot about her.
Yeah, no, and she didn't even need a wheelchair. The mom just convinced her that she's sick, and she just has to stay locked upstairs all the time. It's really fucking twisted.
Yeah, because of what happened to her as a kid, this is her way of protecting her daughter. She was like, if you don't go to school, if you think you're sick and you stay in here the whole time, then they can't hurt you.
That's right. It was an twist. I was hoping for a bigger twist for why they couldn't go upstairs, but what can you do? So we're both at 7s. We both agree that Ma is an okay movie to watch. It keeps you entertained and interested. It is a slow burn. There isn't really much horror elements until you get to the end. That's when it starts to feel like a horror movie and people dying. So
It's a shame. This is the second human killer based movie that we've consecutive that we've seen where they just waste a good villain performance from
Yeah.
a good actor.
that's right. I mean, and it wasn't even bad. It's just it has no rewatchability factor for me, and that's a big thing. But anyway, any other final thoughts on Ma?
No, I think we covered it, and we have a couple more horror movies this month. So it's a good month for horror movies, whether they end up good or not. But we got 4 horror movies in 1 month coming out.
Yeah, because I can list a whole bunch of horror movies that are awful, but I still like to watch. So it doesn't matter. I'm always going to go, even if I know it's going to be a big steaming pile of shit. But anyway, I think it's time to move on to our final part of the podcast where we have prepared a couple of 2-sentence horror stories for you guys. So, Jose, you want to go first?
You can go. I started it off last time.
All right, I wrote this one right before the podcast. It was like a little bit mixture of both movies.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
He's the most evil, sadistic, grotesque monster I've ever met. And if I have another drink, you'll get to meet him too.
Oh, a little Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Monster and that little drinking, because I remember Ma didn't drink in this movie. So I was just like, throw them both in there. I like that one.
I like it. Mine is more related to one than the other.
Okay.
I always had a crush on you, but I didn't have the courage to talk to you, even though I knew we would be perfect for each other. Now you're finally here with me, and we're going to be so happy together once I can trust you not to scream.
Oh man, that's some really weird twisted shit. Ugh.
Yeah, I guess which movie this one's related to. Godzilla.
I was gonna say Ghostbusters. All right, guys, that's our podcast for Terror-Phobia right here on the Too High McFly podcast channel. If you guys are listening to us on SoundCloud or Spotify, go over to our YouTube channel and see our short films, our movie reviews, and other content that we have for you guys. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at Too High McFly Productions and on Instagram at Too High McFly Productions. My name is Kevin Lyons.
I'm Jose Ramos.
Stay scared, friends.